Yeah, so we're back again on what is encapsulation. Encapsulation means keeping your object variables private and controlling how they're accessed or changed through the use of getters and setters. In, encapsulation is achieved through the use of access modifiers um, in Java. So Java have access modifiers, which are keywords that play a very crucial role when it comes to object-oriented programming. Without Java access modifiers, it will be quite hard to achieve object-oriented programming. Yeah, they play a very important role in it. I'll touch base on access modifiers on the next slide. Okay, so what is Java access modifiers? Java access modifiers are keywords that control where a class, variable, or a method can be accessed from. So these keywords, they determine where a class or a variable or a method can be accessed from. So we have 4 Java access modifiers. We have your public modifier, you have your private modifier, you have your default modifier, and you have your protected modifier. The public modifier means that whatever has the public keyword in Java can be accessed from any package and any class, and whatever has the private keyword or modifier means that it can only be accessed within the class it is specified at. You can't access it outside the class, you can only access it inside the class itself. And you have your default access modifiers. Your default access modifier, the default access modifier means that you can only access that variable in the same package. You can only access that variable in the same package. You can't access it on other packages. So what is a package? A package in Java is like, for our new beginners, for people that are not quite familiar with Java. So packages is like folders that we have inside our project. So these folders help us manage our project. For example, we'll have like a user folder. The user folder will have classes that are related to the user, or user functionalities. And we also would have maybe a finance package, which will act as a finance folder, which will have all the things, all the classes that have finance related functionalities. It's just a way of managing your project and separation of concerns. And the more your project grows, the more easier it is for you to navigate your project and know where to find what and what, because like you can't just have classes anyway. It becomes quite messy. The bigger your project grows, the bigger your project gets, you want to be able to know exactly where to find which class. You don't want to struggle through a bunch of classes that are maybe only kept on the same package. You want to have like proper package names. which is proper folders to manage all these classes, like as I said before, finance package to manage finance related classes, maybe a user package to manage user related classes. Yeah, it makes your job quite easy. So yeah, so the default means that that variable can only be accessed in the same package, by the classes in the same package. Classes on other packages, they won't be able to access that variable. And then we have our protected modifier. So the protected keyword or modifier means that you can only access whatever you specified as protected in the same package, and also your subclasses. And we'll touch later on subclasses when you talk about inheritance and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, protected modifier is only meant for things that you would want to access in the same package or your subclasses. Okay, let's do next. So an encapsulation example would be a bank account. Yeah, so we have our bank account clause, and our bank account clause have the balance. So a balance is the amount of money that you have in the bank. So that's super private. You wouldn't want anyone playing around with that. You would want to have restricted access as much as possible with the balance. That's why we have the balance attribute as private. You see the private keyword, and then you don't want anyone to mess around or access the variable from anywhere to update it. So that's why it's private. And below that we have get balance. We've made it public because we want people to be able to get their balance, but yeah, we don't want them to actually update the balance. Yeah, but we want them to update the balance, but it should only be done through a deposit of money. So that's why right below we have the deposit method. The deposit method, what it does, it takes the amount that you've paused in and add it to the amount that's currently in your bank account. And as you see in the deposit method, there's a check to see if your amount is above zero, because when you're depositing money inside your bank, we wouldn't want any negative value. That don't make sense. So we want any value that's above zero, and then we add it to your current balance. Yeah, so yeah, this was a good example that I can think of when it comes to encapsulation. Let's go on to the next slide. So why is encapsulation so important? So it's important for security purpose, control purpose, flexibility purpose, and clean code purposes. So yeah, that's the benefit of encapsulation. Next we'll be coding. We'll code the example and touch more on encapsulation when I'm on the coding process, so stay tuned. Okay, so now we'll be coding the example on encapsulation, using the bank account as an example. Bank account would usually have I balance private double balance link. Constructor. Now, since a balance is a very sensitive attribute, we wouldn't want anyone to be able to access it from anywhere in the code or make any funny alterations in the code. We always want to have control on how the balance is updated, and that control we always try to keep it inside the bank account clause, so that to have clean code. Yeah, you don't want to have that functionality at a different place in the code. So yeah, another method we would most likely want to have that will call from anywhere is the get balance method. We should be able to get the balance, how much money is in the account from almost anywhere. We should also be able to deposit money inside the account. So let me create a public void deposit method. The amount that you want to deposit into our bank account. So let's say balance and add amount to whatever is in the bank account. But when it comes, we should also validate amount is bigger than 0. Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense for someone to want to, it wouldn't make sense for someone to deposit a negative amount. It should always be a positive amount. So this is the validation that I was talking about, and making sure we're keeping all the amount validation and logic inside the bank account clause. That's also a big part of encapsulation. It meaning that when we deposit money, when we call the deposit method, we can easily call it from the main clause, and there will be no additional code needed to do any validation checks, since everything will be inside this bank account clause. This makes our code a whole lot cleaner as well. Yeah, so okay, let's do an example. Let's test our code out. Okay, let me do this. Bank account here. Bank account. So okay. Let me do this. 100. And get balance, and see if passed in 100 as our balance. Yeah, now we're not worried about, okay, I'm sure some of you are wondering, okay, what about the currency? Currency. Yeah, now we're not worried about the currency. Yeah, we're just trying to test out the balance variable. But yeah, in a proper software or proper functional project, you would also want to have your currency also inserted with your amount. Yeah, so but for now this is different. This is just for demonstration purposes. So that's why we're not putting too much effort on that. But yeah, let's test it out. Okay, lovely. See, we have 100 in our bank account, and then let's see if we can actually deposit. Let's try to deposit 2,000 rand, and then try to call and try to get a balance and see what happens if we try to deposit a negative 2,000 rand. As I've said before, we shouldn't allow the deposit. We shouldn't allow someone to deposit a negative amount. So I expect the balance to always stay 100 since we're not allowing that. As you see here, we always check the amount that is being deposited to see if it's actually bigger than 0, and if it's bigger than 0, then allow the amount to be deposited inside our account. But this one is negative. But let's test it out. Let's test it out. Okay, let me say current balance, and then here current balance after negative deposit. Current balance 100 rand. Okay, or dollars. Can be anything. Euros. Current balance after negative deposit still 100 rand. Okay, then let's try to insert the positive amount, 2,000. Deposit 2,000 now. Okay, current balance after positive deposit. Okay, let's test it out. Let's run this main method. So see, now we have 2,100 inside our bank account. Yeah, lovely. So yeah, that concludes our demonstration and example on encapsulation